recognize Robert Higiro.
Chairman Smith, ranking members of the subcommittee, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to give a testimony on democracy and human rights in Rwanda. I wish to give evidence. My purpose today is to give evidence to the fact that democracy in Rwanda is impossible because of the environment that exists in the country right now. The commander-in-chief and the Rwandan security forces are part of the problem. Their purpose is not to provide security, but rather to kill Rwandans and cause chaos in the region. Let me begin with President Kagame himself. He's on the record saying after the 2016 State Department report, when they were concerned by disappearances, saying those who talk about disappearances are wasting time. As he puts it, we will shoot them, if possible, broad daylight. That's the president saying, I'm just quoting him, it's not my words, it's his words. We have seen a follow-up of his senior commanders, brigade commanders, division commanders, echoing the same tone, especially in the Western region. In the 2016 State Department's Human Rights Report gives the most recent realities in Rwanda. An increasing number of people have disappeared or have been reported missing since May 2015. That's since our previous hearing. Many of the cases occurred in Rubavu district in Western provinces. According to Human Rights Watch reports, most of these people were detained by Rwanda Defense Forces. And we believe that they're in military custody. Witnesses saw some of the local authorities participating in this activity. One was the executive secretary in Rubavu district by the name of Mugisha. He was seen taking part in those who were forcibly being kidnapped together with security agents. One Muhammad Munyengango was shot and killed while in custody. At least half a dozen of people have been murdered by the security forces while in prison. Extrajudicial killings recently increased as the security forces cleared the capital of Kigali and major towns of poor people, unemployed, and the homeless. Authorities are rounding up poor people, arbitrarily detaining them in transit centers. They have transit centers across the country. In its 2017 report, Human Rights Watch proved chilling details of extrajudicial killings of 37 Rwandans suspected of petty offenses, such as stealing bananas or a car or a motorcycle in the Western province. That was between July 2016 and 2017. Soldiers have continued to arrest and shoot most of the victims in what appears to be an official sanctioned strategy by the government. The crimes by the state against Rwandans never stops. And this includes dissidents, those inside the country, as they go as far as Europe. That's why I'm here. I tried to run as far as possible, but they still come for you. We'll get a chance to elaborate on that. Rwanda's destabilization of neighboring countries has also not stopped, particularly in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Burundi. In the 2013 DRC, Rwanda disarmed over 770 M23 Congolese rebel combatants. It had previously sponsored to take part or to take over eastern part of the DRC. After the defeat of M23, over 770 crossed into Rwanda, the same number, and were detained in Ngoma. According to the 2016 State Department report, the same number mysteriously vanished. There can be no doubt about their role. They are Rwanda's proxy army used to destabilize the neighbors. In the case of Burundi, Rwanda stand accused of recruiting Burundian refugees into the armed groups who seek to overthrow the government of President Pierre Nkurunziza. In its report, Asylum Betrayed, Recruitment of Burundian Refugees in Rwanda, Refugees International booked Rwanda in the following terms: the Rwandan government must act at once to ensure the civilian and humanitarian character of asylum and protected refugees from recruitment by non-state armed actors. To that end, it must ensure that all efforts to recruit Burundian refugees into armed groups, whether on or emanating from Rwandan territory, and whether committed by Burundian or Rwandan nationals, cease immediately. That was Refugees International. Rwanda must also affirm publicly that the recruitment of refugees into non-state armed groups on its territory is a violation of international and Rwandan law. Mr. Chairman, I know a lot has been said. I can't repeat what has been said, whether it's on the political aspect or the corruption. That's why I want to conclude by thanking you once again for conducting this congressional hearing on Rwanda. We trust that the United States, being the main donor to Rwanda, will make its support conditional to ending terror on its own people and the region. Thank you very much.
Gara, thank you very much for your testimony. And for
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Normally, I like to go into the details of if what Mr. Jobans just said, if what the State Department just said is true, whether it's development, building institutions in Rwanda, so what's the problem? Why is it that things are not working? I asked him before this started that if Rwanda can really develop so quickly, like they're saying, it's a landlocked country, we have neighbors, how do they do it? How do they do it that Burundi can't copy that, or Tanzania or Uganda or DRC? What's the magic? And if there is no issue, why are we here? So I like bringing to this committee exactly what I'm worried about. One, President Kagame criminalizes Rwandans. And we all know when you push people to the wall, what happens? How did we get to 1994? What really happened to get to 1994? It's this. We talk about issues and people choose which side they want to be on. They choose which truth they want to bring out. But we all know that Rwandans, personally, I can talk about genocide because I was there. Sometimes Rwandans will talk about genocide, people have different views. But when it comes to me as a soldier who tried to rescue people during genocide, I fought in the capital city for 3 months before we took over. I know exactly what happened. I know how the Tutsis were being killed. I know other crimes. Then we have what happened from 94 to date. Again, I served until 2010. When I was decommissioned, I was serving the United Nations. I was a peacekeeper. I had 2 tours in Darfur. One as a commander of soldiers, another one as a staff officer, heading the sector's information. I know a lot of that. I know how they work. I know the discipline of the Rwandan soldiers. I know where it comes from. And what I've been striving to give you and the State Department and other elements of the government is the truth. What people have to do with it is not up to me. But Kagame knows all this. He knows we're going to come here and make good speeches, talk about the corruption, and he'll say corruption is everywhere in the world. And most of the people who still go to Rwanda, it doesn't matter where you're working. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter if you're Rwandan. In most cases, they will never criticize Rwanda. Do you know why? Because that's the end. The previous regional representative of Great Lakes region, literally Kagame made him fail to do his job. You either say what he's telling you or you don't come back. And it doesn't matter which level they're on. Now, criminalizing Rwandans is in two ways. The Hutus, if you follow deeply, most of them are concerned to talk about the current situation. Why? The moment you do that, you become a genocider. They fabricate cases for the Hutus, and some of them have been deported from the United States. I've tried to engage with the United States government about these cases, because the least we need, we're not saying we're supporting those who participated in genocide. No, we are saying we need fair justice. Try them here, right? Because there's no justice in Rwanda. No. That's the problem. So the Hutus have to keep quiet because they're genociders. That's it. No defense at all. Everybody, even those who were born today, Kagame himself said, even their children have to be responsible for their parents' crimes. So up to when a Hutu is going to be free, we don't know, as long as they're still living. Now, the second criminalization of Rwandans is the Tutsis. Today, the opposition political parties in the diaspora, some of them have sympathizers inside the country, have raised the paranoia in the country to the government. So, even these recent arrests, for example, Diane Rwigara, I'm very sure soon you hear that she's part of those political parties. We have a group of 5 political parties who formed a coalition. And it's increasingly becoming stronger, and they are gaining voice. I've spoke this or discussed this with the State Department, because we always say, what's the alternative? Should we just say Kagame is bad and that's it? No. Rwandans have alternatives. They have seen that there's no Hutu government which is going to work, there's no Tutsi government which is going to work. That country was made for them both. The reconciliation he talked about is a fake reconciliation. There is no way you can say that there's reconciliation in Rwanda. By picking a Hutu to become a prime minister every single term, or some of them, he changes them in the middle of the term, does not mean reconciliation. When Kagame has rallies in the western region where it's predominant Hutu, the Hutus showing up, it's a military operation. They start beating them up and driving them to the scene around midnight, when Kagame is going to appear the next day around 3. Yes. That's what happens. So everything we see is a show. What they do, what Rwanda is concerned about, the Rwandan government is concerned with 2 issues. When you get $400 million and you construct a trade center, a conventional center, $400 million. This is what you do. What you're doing is protecting, showing the image of the country, right? Because $400 million can do a lot to the population, be it school, health, water, everything that they are lacking in the interior. So the image of the country, that's what they show everybody who goes to Rwanda. restore the image of the president. It's only him who can do it, no one else. That's what they fight for. If you don't do it, that's it. It doesn't now, today, it's not about the Hutus and the Tutsis. It's everybody. We have concerns with what's happening to families of these people who have already been killed, like it has been mentioned. You know, we have issues in the military. 4 colonels were recently arrested and taken to unknown locations. It's in my submitted report. Many generals and colonels are out of job. And that's why I say that where we are today in Rwanda is where we were just before 94. Suppose anything happened in Rwanda, suppose Kagame got sick and died, what happens with all this tension?
We're going to call votes in a minute, but I appreciate that. And Mr. Higiro, I think I heard you say that some of the opponents of Kagame have been deported from the U.S. Did you say that?
No, it was not the opponents. The Hutus who have cases linked to genocide crimes, yes, which have been fabricated.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
They were deported from here?
Yes.
Recently?
It's about a few months.
Okay.
The last case I know at least is a few months.
We will ask the State Department if they have any knowledge of any personal corruption for President Kagame and whether or not he has accumulated wealth that would not be commensurate with the job of a president. Anybody else like to add? I do have to run. We have only a few minutes left. We deeply appreciate your testimony, your insights. It helps enlighten, especially with the new administration. So thank you so very, very much. Here's adjourned.